Hi, Kita Gimel. This is part 4 of the Passover story. We left just as Moses and Aaron had done as God commanded them. They went to Pharaoh, but their efforts have only resulted in the situation for the Israelites becoming harder. They have to collect their own straw, and they have more work to do, so they're mad. And but now God is sending Moses and Aaron to talk to Pharaoh again. He tells them, go and tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites leave his land. But Moses says to God, the Israelites would not listen to me. Why would Pharaoh listen to me? A man who has problems with his speech. God replied, I place you in the role of God to Pharaoh, with your brother Aaron as your prophet. You shall repeat all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall speak to Pharaoh. God said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh speaks to you and says, produce your marvel, meaning show us some proof that your God is so great, you shall say to Aaron, take your rod, your stick, and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it shall turn into a snake. So Moses and Aaron came before Pharaoh and did just as God commanded. Aaron threw down his rod in front of Pharaoh, and it turned into a snake. And the Egyptian magicians did the same with their rods. But Aaron's rod ate their rod. Aaron's snake ate their snakes. Yet Pharaoh's heart hardened, and he did not do as they asked. God said to Moses, Pharaoh is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is coming out to the water, and station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile River, taking with you the rod that turned into a snake. So remember, Pharaoh's daughter was also down at the river. Maybe it's the Egyptian custom to go down to the river in the morning and either do your bathing or something in the morning down by the river. So when you're at the edge and Pharaoh's there and you have your rod, say to Pharaoh, the God of the Hebrews sent me to you to say, let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness. But you have not done so until now. By this you shall know I am God. And so at that point, Aaron is supposed to say, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the rod that is in my hand, and it will be turned into blood, and the fish in the Nile will die. The Nile will stink so that the Egyptians will find it impossible to drink the water of the Nile. So God said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your stick and hold out your arm over the waters of Egypt, over its rivers, its canals, its ponds, and all of its bodies of water, that they may turn to, yes, blood. So there shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone. So Moses and Aaron did just as God commanded. Aaron lifted up the rod and struck the water in the Nile in sight of Pharaoh and his courtiers. He has all his kind of people around him, as kings do. They have a lot of people that are serving them. And all the water in the Nile was turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile died. The Nile stank so that the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile, and there was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But when the Egyptian magicians did the same with their spells, I don't know if that means, did they make more blood? I don't see how, that seems weird. Maybe they made it less blood, but they do something. And Pharaoh's heart hardened, and he did not do as they had asked. He sees his magicians do something that makes him feel that maybe they're also powerful like God. So Pharaoh turned and went into his palace and ignored them. And all the Egyptians had to dig round about the Nile for drinking water because they could not drink the water of the Nile. So they didn't make the plague go away completely, but something has happened that has made Pharaoh think, nah, that's not so great. That's not so amazing. When 7 days passed, God said to Moses, go to Pharaoh and say, thus says God, let my people go that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile shall swarm with frogs, and they shall come up and enter your palace, your bedchamber, and your bed. Remember that song? The houses of your courtiers and your people and your ovens and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come up on you and on your people and on all your courtiers. And God told Moses to tell Aaron to hold his arm with the rod over the rivers, canals, and the ponds and bring up the frogs on the land. And Aaron did so, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same with their spells, again, something, and they brought frogs upon the land. They brought more frogs. I don't know. It sounds crazy. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, plead with God to remove the frogs from me and my people, and I will let them go. Maybe Pharaoh's impressed. And Moses said to Pharaoh, okay, when should I plead on behalf of you and your courtiers and your people that the frogs shall be removed from your houses and land to stay in the Nile? For tomorrow, he responded. And Moses said, no, there is none like our God. The frogs shall retreat from you all and remain only in the Nile. Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh, and Moses cried out to God about the frogs. And God did as Moses asked. The frogs died out in the houses, the courtyards, and the fields, and they piled them up in heaps till the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he became stubborn and would not let them leave. Then God said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it will turn into lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so. Aaron held out his arm with the rod and struck the dust of the earth, and lice came upon people and animals. The magicians did the same with their spells to make lice, but they couldn't. The lice stayed upon people and animals, and the magicians said, this is the finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart hardened, and he would not do as they had asked, as God had spoken. So we'll leave it there. That is part 4 of the Passover story, and we'll see you again with part 5. Bye.